Hey, it's Jordan with Status Coup. It looks like Democrats and President Manchin are close to a drastically scaled back version of Build Back Better that, by the looks of it, will give you some crumbs. That's right, crumbs. Let me show you the Washington Post headline. Is Joe Manchin about to do the right thing? Gotta love it. Gotta love it. Joe Manchin, President Manchin. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has released a proposal for a bill to allow Medicare to negotiate prescription drug prices, which emerged from talks with Manchin. The bill has been given to the Senate parliamentarian, to ensure that it meets the requirements of reconciliation to allow circumvention of the filibuster so it could pass with a simple majority. Democrats will need this because so far precisely 0 Republicans in the Senate support the bill. That might change, however, because allowing negotiation on drug prices has long been almost absurdly popular. The bill would do the following: require the Department of Health and Human Services to negotiate prices on commonly used medications, almost certainly bringing down the cost, cap out-of-pocket expenses for drugs for Medicare recipients at $2,000 per year, limit the amount drug companies can raise prices each year on existing medication to the rate of inflation, expand assistance to seniors up to 150% of the poverty level to afford medications. A lobbyist for pharma, the drug company trade group, criticized the plan, which is a good indication that it might actually bring down prices. Oh, of course, the Washington Post's rosy picture of this glorified crumb cake. When you hear negotiating drug prices, Medicare negotiating drug prices, I suspected this was not for all drugs, and I was right. I spoke with Michael Leidy, who is a fellow with the Sanders Institute, one of the fiercest advocates for Medicare for all in the country, expert on all things healthcare. And I asked him about this. He told me this is for a selected class of drugs. It's not Medicare negotiating all drug prices. It would happen like this. It would allow 10 single source drugs beginning in 2026, so 4 years from now, for Medicare to negotiate drug prices for those 10 drugs. 15 more would be added in 2027. 15 more would be added for 2028. 20 more for 2029. So you're talking 10, 15, that's 30, 45, 65. You're talking between 65 and 70 drugs over 5-6 years would be able for Medicare to negotiate drug prices. I'm pretty sure Americans depend on a lot more than 65 to 70 drugs for their various physical, mental health ailments. But this Medicare negotiating drug prices would be staggered from 2026 to 2029 and basically cover about 60 to 70 drugs, and not right away, over the course of 5 to 6 years. Then you have capping out-of-pocket expenses for drugs for Medicare recipients at $2,000 per year. I mean, Medicare recipients, most of whom are senior citizens, well, all of whom at this point are senior citizens, unless you have Medicare at a younger age for different reasons. $2,000 a year is still a lot of money. Particularly with inflation out of control, rising cost of living, a lot of seniors, including those I've interviewed, being priced out of their homes. So capped at $2,000 per year, I guess you could say it's better than $10,000 to $20,000 per year, but $2,000 a year is still too much for most seniors. So again, it's something, but not at all what we need or what it should be. Limits the amount drug companies could raise prices each year on existing medication to the rate of inflation. Again, believe it when I see it. They could say to the rate of inflation, but there's a lot of other things in our economy that are supposed to only be rising based on inflation. But you have companies like currently now price gouging the hell out of us with no rules or penalties from the federal government. Expanding assistance to seniors earning up to 150% of the poverty level to afford medications. Kind of vague. I don't know how much that assistance will be. And if you talk to seniors, a lot of the assistance programs requires a PhD to get through the paperwork to get that assistance. So again, proof in the pudding. I'll definitely want to talk to Michael Leidy and others about what will and will not be able to fall under that provision of Medicare negotiating drug prices, because I promise you, it ain't a blanket for all drugs. But let's go further in this, because there's other pieces of this crumb cake. What's more, the movement on Medicare prescription drugs also holds out a tantalizing possibility that this could open the door to Manchin reaching a broader deal that also expands the Affordable Care Act subsidies. Oh, the Affordable Care Act subsidies. The expanded subsidies, which were originally passed in the 2021 COVID-19 rescue package, are on track to expire at the end of the year. They were set to be extended as part of Build Back Better, but Manchin killed that. For them to expire now would mean millions of people see premium hikes, and a few million more could lose coverage entirely. Given that Democrats spent a decade winning the argument over the Affordable Care Act while slowly expanding it towards universal health care, such a massive regression would be an utter catastrophe, both substantively and politically. Oh, wonderful. More Affordable Care Act subsidies to go essentially to for-profit insurance companies. How's that for building back better? Instead of, I don't know, the public option that Biden ran on, you don't hear any of that in these negotiations. You never even heard it from Biden once he was elected. That went out the window because he never actually meant it as a candidate. But in this scaled back, Build Back Better, they're going to throw more money, more bad money at the Affordable Care Act and subsidies that are going to go to private health care companies. Which, by the way, even with these subsidies, the Affordable Care Act is too expensive for most people, particularly in big cities where the marketplace. I mean, I looked when I was unemployed in New York, Obamacare plans for a shitty one. You weren't getting even a shitty plan for less than $700-800 a month. And that was a crappy plan. Oh, boy. Fortunately, NBC News reports that Manchin is open to extending the subsidies, though he doesn't seem enthusiastic about it. Oh, well, we got to get President Manchin enthusiastic about giving the for-profit insurance industry more money. Here's the thing, though. If Manchin is willing to do this, it absolutely could be done inside the parameters that he himself has set. Here's why. Most reporting suggests Manchin seems open to revive scaled back Build Back Better that raises around $1 trillion, both by rolling back some of the Trump 2017 tax cuts for the wealthy and with Medicare prescription drug reform, which would save the government money. Manchin wants to put half of the $1 trillion into deficit reduction. Oh, God. That would leave around $500 billion for public and social spending. If around $300 billion of that went to funding the transition to clean energy through tax incentives and other means, a key part of Build Back Better that Manchin appears open to, that would leave around $200 billion for expanded ACA subsidies. So in this scaled back, Build Back Better that apparently is close, Manchin, Schumer, Sinema have been negotiating it. Essentially what you're going to get, Medicare negotiating drug prices for some drugs, capping costs for seniors, out-of-pocket costs at $2,000, $300 billion for clean energy and climate, which is all neoliberal tax incentives, nothing binding. They're not ordering for-profit companies to shift to clean energy. They're just providing tax incentives, which is just neoliberalism, and $200 billion to go towards more Affordable Care Act subsidies. So throwing more bad money over bad money instead of shifting to a public option and scaling back Trump's tax cuts. Now, people will say, well, Jordan, it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. It's the only thing they're going to get done with a 50-50 Senate and Manchin blocking Build Back Better, the broader $3.5 trillion package, which ultimately was whittled down to 1.7, 1.8 trillion anyway. So is it better to take something than nothing? Well, I think the broader question is, how did we get here? How did we get here where a media that fed us Biden was the guy who could get things done? Remember, I was on the road. Biden was the guy who could work with Republicans and get things done. Biden was the guy who could wrangle the divisions in the Democratic Party to get things done. How did we get here where Joe Manchin essentially became president? with Kirsten Sinema being vice president, or if you want to flip it around. How did we get here? Through a pathetic progressive squad in Congress. Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush. If I'm forgetting folks, frankly, Bernie, who said we'd fight to remove Trump and then we'd fight Biden on day one. There was no fight. The progressives did not do what I said to Ro Khanna in an interview. Why didn't you go to West Virginia a year ago and hold rallies on Joe Manchin's doorstep? Same thing in Arizona, pointing out his donors, pointing out why he's blocking Build Back Better. The fact that he owns a coal company and has made nearly $5 million from this coal company as a U.S. senator while serving as chairman of the Senate Energy Committee. You would have got 7,000 to 10,000 people at that rally in West Virginia. I've been to West Virginia a few times. Red state, pretty significant populist history. It's a lot of working people that supported Bernie. He won every county during the Democratic primary in 2016. Every county over Hillary Clinton. They gave Manchin this power by never actually pressuring him. On the flip side, they never actually pressured President Biden to fight Manchin and Sinema, to use the bully pulpit of the presidency. This misnomer that, well, Manchin's not going to do it, so why bother? Well, how do you know he's not going to do it when you've never pressured him? The most pressure Manchin ever got was from activists who paddled to Manchin's yacht. Yes, he has a house yacht. And activists that nearly jumped on his Lamborghini. Yes, he has a Lamborghini. And the activists that followed Kirsten Sinema into the bathroom in Arizona. Credit to activists, but a lot of these politicians were elected because they claimed they were going to do activism. AOC and the rest of them. Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, who held the line with the squad, said we will not vote for the bipartisan infrastructure deal if Build Back Better was not attached to it. And what ended up happening? They hold the line for a couple months, and then Terry McAuliffe loses the governor's race in Virginia. The media and then the Democratic Party throw flames and fury at the progressives. Propaganda that Terry McAuliffe lost because the bipartisan infrastructure deal wasn't passed, which no polling or data supported that. And with a little heat and a little pressure on them, Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, and the Progressive Caucus folded like a cheap tent. Credit AOC, Jamal Bowman, Cori Bush, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, I forget the other one. They held fast and voted no on the bipartisan infrastructure deal. But Pramila Jayapal, Ro Khanna, they folded like a cheap tent, claiming we believe the president. We take him at his word that he will deliver Manchin's vote on a bold Build Back Better plan. This is how we got here. Manchin could be pressured, could be shamed. Remember, Bernie wrote an op-ed in a West Virginia newspaper, and Manchin revolted just through an op-ed. Folks might not realize this, but AOC's former chief of staff and communications director, Shoykat, forget his last name, Shoykat Sharkabadi, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, was AOC's chief of staff. Corbin Trent was his communications director. When they left AOC's office, it's not clear if they quit or they were edged out. They helped get her elected, by the way, to Congress the first time. They started a super PAC. First thing they did was go on with ads on West Virginia radio attacking Joe Manchin for being against the $2,000 checks that Biden and the Democrats promised. And guess what? Once those ads went on the air in West Virginia, Joe Manchin started moonwalking away from that position. What do you know? A little bit of pressure. This is how we got here. So the question isn't, well, Jordan, isn't it better than nothing? I mean, I guess in a vacuum, since we're not going to get better at this point because progressives decided, hey, we won't do anything. We won't activate our massive base, even people that are a little jaded, that are, maybe disheartened with the squad, maybe disheartened with Bernie. If they would have sent out the bat signal, if they would have said, hey, let's pressure these people, let's call out these corrupt ghouls, I think we could be talking about a much bigger package right now. And you want to know something? I don't really care to the people who say, oh, Jordan, if they did that, Manchin and Sinema would have just moved over to the Republican Party. Okay. So what? Literally, so what? What is the threat of that? So they'll officially become Republicans, and what? Are we getting any structural change from them being Democrats and blocking anything substantial? So they become Republicans, officially become your enemy. It's not structurally changing anything because as Democrats, they're blocking anything from being done. I'm not for another $200 billion towards giving subsidies to the private health insurance industry rather than shifting to a public option. And of course, Medicare for all, I'm not for that. And $300 billion for clean energy, i.e. tax incentives, and nothing binding to force corporations to shift off of fossil fuels to clean energy. Hell, independent experts say we need north of $10 trillion to save the planet. $300 billion in tax incentives, that's half a Band-Aid to a gaping gunshot wound. So this is build back nothing. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.